The words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be always acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. So somebody pointed out to me this week that when we read through this gospel, and it's one of those things that's, I don't know what it is, but there's something about church language that sometimes we can kind of tune it out. The word glory and glorify and to be glorified appears in this gospel over and over again. And in fact, all these readings, there's talk of glorifying God. And so I spent a lot of time this week thinking about the glory of God and what that means. Of course, I Googled it on my phone. Didn't help. I started thinking about the ways that we used to see, and we still see this a lot in churches when you see the glory of God. I'm a church guy, usually when I see the glory of God, it's always given in the memory of so-and-so to the glory of God. Right? That's often how we see it. Given, it's always to the glory of God we have constructed this building or we've constructed this monument. And I thought indeed that is how, for a very long time in the church's history, I would say most of the church's history, that's often how we would glorify God. We would build those great cathedrals, right, that are all over Europe and all over the New World, and now all over the world. These massive cathedrals built in the glory of God. And we would donate these grand and amazing gifts of gold and silver in all these amazing ways. Artists would paint these great works of art. You think of Michelangelo and all the great artists of the Renaissance painting for the glory of God. If you see the Pietà, it's heartbreakingly beautiful, sculpted to glorify God. We've also done some terrible things. We've conquered nations to the glory of God. We've done all kinds of fascinating things, great things, powerful things, and some terrible things, all to glorify God. But I feel like something has happened. Something has happened to us, and we're living in a different time. And I'm not quite sure how we got here. It might have been some of the events of the 20th century. My parents just got back from Coventry. And Coventry these days is very famous for their cathedral. I don't know if you're familiar with Coventry Cathedral. Coventry was a huge, and it still is, an industrial town in England. They built a lot of munitions during the Second World War in Coventry, and so they were bombed a lot. And eventually, whether on purpose or by accident, who knows, the great and ancient cathedral of Coventry, which was one of the great cathedrals of England, was bombed. And it was bombed a lot. And so if you go to the cathedral in Coventry today, you see there's one wall that they've preserved, and there's one tower that they've preserved. And it's open. You can see the square where the cathedral used to be is now an open stone area where there's places to sit and pray. And then attached to the ruins is a brand new building that was built in the last half of the 20th century, and it's exceptionally beautiful in its own way and quite modern. And as I was looking at pictures of the Coventry Cathedral, you think of all the things that happened, these great cathedrals, these great achievements that were once built in the glory of God that changed forever following several decades of enormous violence. I don't know if that's what's happened, but I feel something has happened when we think of the glory of God, where I feel today, I think more about what God has done. I don't know why this has happened, but I feel it's happened to me and it's happened to a lot of us. When I think of the glory of God now, I look outside. I went to the Museum of Nature this weekend, and I thought of the millions of years of these creatures walking the earth, mysterious, strange creatures. There's this bizarre rhinoceros type thing that used to walk in Saskatchewan, and it's amazing. He has the funniest face if you've seen him. He's almost a goofy face. He looks like something from a Disney movie. And there he is plodding along, and they've long since become extinct. This is about 75 million years ago, this guy was wandering around. You can go and see these ancient crystals that took millions and millions of years to form, and they're the most heartbreakingly beautiful mathematical patterns. God has done some incredible, amazing works. And as we traveled through the 20th century and are now in the 21st century, we're becoming more and more aware of how incredible our world is, how incredible the universe is. We're looking with amazement at our own bodies, the ways that we are built, and at the same time, we are becoming more and more humbled as these great technological feats that were supposed to set us free and some thought would turn us into gods are constantly humbling us. We're humbled by the nuclear weapons we made that were the generation that made them may have thought, and this is really, there were theologians that I read as I started my career who talked about the advent of the nuclear weapon as a moment when God became very small. We were able to level cities for the first time. We were able to shape our destiny. We were able to destroy the world. And a lot of theologians said it was a great crisis spiritually for us because we felt that God was too small to act. It was a crisis of faith as God became very small and we became God-like. That's what theologians described, a lot of the movements in the 20th century. How different is our time now? I feel we live in an age where we are humbled. Those same weapons that may have once we thought we had touched the face of God, now we hope that they will stay quiet and never be used again. The technology that brings us close together also separates us. I find myself mesmerized by this glowing screen of my phone, and I become sometimes very detached from the community around me, and I even become detached from myself as moments of silence and contemplation become moments of Googling and Facebooking and flipping from thing to thing. Technology, ironically, I feel it is not making us arrogant. I feel it is humbling us. As we learn more and more about what God has done, we're learning more and more about what we can't do. And so where I find this to be a fascinating and exciting and very new time is we're returning to a time when God is very, very great and we are very humble. We are humbling ourselves as we are learning about the greatness of God. This is a new age for us. We've come out of an age where God was very small, and we were growing ever more powerful. And now God is very great, and we are humble. I'm not sure what that means for us. I don't know how this will shape our church. I think this is one of the reasons why we're living in an increasingly spiritual time. As we learn more and more about the greatness of the world around us, the mysteries of the world around us, and our own limitations as a species and as individuals. I don't know what this means for us, but it's different. It's also very ancient. This is the oldest way that we've understood God, and we're returning to a very ancient place. So I'm going to leave that with you. It's a bit of a puzzle as we explore the humility of the 21st century and the increasingly spiritual 21st century. Perhaps we'll discover what that means together as a church. Amen.